call about the plane crash in Beaver Lake. What do y'all need out there?
Well, an investigation underway after a plane crashed into Beaver Lake there. You were actually hearing the dispatch audio.
Yeah, it happened in the Montanay area on Thursday afternoon, and the pilot unfortunately died in this crash.
Yeah, a spokesperson for the Benton County Sheriff's Office says the victim was 61-year-old Kim Sweet. Now, here's a timeline of what we know happened so far. They say Sweet called emergency services just after 1:30. Multiple crews responded, and a communication log shows a dive team was activated less than 10 minutes later. Now at 1:54, it was reported the pilot was in the aircraft. 2 firefighters attempted a rescue but were unable to make access. The log also saying that Sweet was identified as the possible owner of the plane by 2:16. Now the Federal Aviation Administration and the NTSB will investigate.
Well, people near the lake say that they were shocked to hear what happened. Chris Brooks lives on the other side of the lake and actually heard the plane. Residents around the water are used to planes flying low, so Brooks says a crash there is rare.
I've seen so many aircraft coming through there day in, day out. It's scary for the homeowners around here because they fly so low and they're flying right over our rooftops and everything most of the time, but never seen any issues.
Where the pilot was coming from and where he was going has not been released. That's what the FAA and the NTSB will determine, along with the cause of the crash. Well, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office is searching for a suspect this morning after a bank robbery less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah, this actually happened in Lavaca there yesterday afternoon. Video of the scene. Let's take a look. It was there at the First and National Bank off of West Main. Law enforcement could be seen searching. Even the schools there in the area were placed on lockdown as a precaution. Now, investigators did release these surveillance photos showing who they say is the suspect. That robbery was reported to police just before 3 o'clock that afternoon. They say anyone with information on the suspect to ask to call the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office.
Well, Arkansas State Police are investigating after a shooting that involved police officers in Rogers. We first brought you this yesterday morning.
Yeah, it was as breaking news, but we're learning one person injured there in that shooting, which the shooting unfolded on Wednesday night. A neighbor shared Ring doorbell footage. This is it right here, showing police enter the neighborhood. Investigators say it happened there at the intersection of South Point and South E. They say no officers were injured, but we did speak with one resident who says a bullet hit his vehicle.
It's actually my stepdaughter's. We bought it for her, so this is crazy. This is scary. Something that we need to pay attention to.
Well, we're still working on learning more details about the person who was shot and the situation that led up to the shooting. We'll keep you posted right here on 5 News. Well, today, former President Bill Clinton is set to testify before Congress in its probe into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
This comes after former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton took questions from the committee for 6 hours on Thursday. Jared Hill has more.
Today, former President Bill Clinton takes the hot seat as House lawmakers probe for answers about the nature of his ties to late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. On Thursday,
it was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing.
His wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, spent nearly 6 hours behind closed doors with the House Oversight Committee, afterwards telling reporters the session was repetitive.
I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices.
While recently released Epstein files include pictures of and flight logs that show former President Clinton flew on Epstein's private plane, both Clintons have denied knowing about Epstein's crimes, and neither has been accused of any wrongdoing.
The number of times that she said, "I don't know, you'll have to ask my husband," was more than a dozen.
The Clinton depositions, the highest profile yet, as fallout from the release of the Epstein files has spread from academia to former royalty. Democrats on the panel are pushing to bring in another high-profile person.
We're demanding immediately that we ask President Trump to testify in front of our committee.
Committee Republicans responded that President Trump has already answered questions from the media. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
transcript.
Well, in other news, Cuban officials say they're in contact with the U.S. as the investigation continues into an apparent shootout off the coast of Cuba. The White House confirming at least 2 people involved in the incident were American citizens. Cuban officials killed 4 people, including at least 1 American, and injuring 6 others who are now in Cuban custody. Authorities in the country say a speedboat with 10 people on board opened fire on Cuban troops, saying the men intended to carry out an infiltration for terrorist purposes.
We're going to have our own information on this, and we're going to figure out exactly what happened.
Meanwhile, CBS News has learned the boat was reported stolen, according to a Florida sheriff's report. The vessel's owner said he believes the man who took it was an employee.
Well, authorities have returned Nancy Guthrie's home to her family nearly a month after she was kidnapped. It comes as a source says that the FBI is moving its command post from Tucson to its headquarters in Phoenix. It's all part of what's being called a long-term plan. Authorities are not ruling out more than one accomplice. Experts say surveillance shows a Wi-Fi jamming device may have been used during the incident.